no. I'm like, everybody told me I couldn't. And he was the one who said, just involve me in everything because your CSM knows core. They know the core product backwards and forwards. It's their whole job.
Hello and welcome to Mastering ServiceTitan, where you get expert advice from power users. I'm your host, Josh Liu, and today I'm here with Jen Alonso from Lowry Doors. You're the Director of Sales and Marketing there, and we are diving into the topic of CSMs and how to develop a great relationship with your CSM and how to make the most of that. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course.
So before we dive into the topic of CSMs, could you give a brief introduction of Lowry Doors and your history with ServiceTitan?
Yeah, so we're a garage door company, family owned and operated, fourth generation. We've been in business for 75 years. Got onto ServiceTitan 4 years ago. So we've been in 2021, and really we kind of stumbled into it in a wonderful, wonderful way. We were on a really outdated software. I mean, like it didn't even have a cloud base. We were still pen, paper, the triplicates, the whole thing in 2021. So it was time for a change. The software we were on decided they weren't going to support it anymore, which I don't know what that meant because they didn't support it anyway. And at the time, our CEO turned to me and went, well, you're an office person. You know office things. Go pick a software. I luckily had already heard about ServiceTitan and I'd been kind of quietly pushing for it. So I entertained others, not really. And I said, we're doing ServiceTitan. I was definitely the one that picked it and we ran with it. It was an interesting start just to go from paper and everything completely, just as my partner says, in the caveman days, to go from that to something like ServiceTitan that was this great, huge, giant, robust software that could do so much. It is and was immensely overwhelming at the beginning, but we were very lucky to have amazing CSMs just from day one. I've always had great CSMs that have really helped guide us along the way. So that'll make the difference.
And before we started recording, we were chatting out front that I think there's a component of that relationship, it takes two to dance, right? And so I'm sure it's a reflection of you as well. And so especially in that beginning time when you're first adopting ServiceTitan, especially coming from where you guys were, it's like a huge change. How do you manage that relationship with your CSM when you're brand new to ServiceTitan, when there's like way too much to learn and it could be overwhelming? Do you have any tips for that early stage?
When you're new in ServiceTitan, you have to figure out a process for everything. You almost start all over again, right? Everything needs a new process. Everything you used to do doesn't work. And so you can't, if you just bite it all off and try and do all your processes, you will drown. So what we did is we kind of triaged, and my first CSM was really, really great at saying, okay, what are let's do top 10. Give me the top 10 processes that we need to work through just to survive, right? For the business to keep running, the doors to stay open, what are the top 10? And so we triaged it and we would say, all right, great, we're going to focus on this one. And so I would say, all right, I think that I should do A, and I want to be here. I'm going to go like this. I've had CSMs that they listen and they go, that's great. Here to here, good. Totally different path. Fix it all, totally wrong. The key is to listen to them because they are the ones who know ServiceTitan. So if you go in convinced that, oh no, this is how I've always done it, or my friend down the road does this, if you are so tied to that process, you're not supposed to make ServiceTitan fit you. You need to adapt to ServiceTitan. And that's just it. It's just the easier route. It's the simplest one. And so just listening to your CSMs and going, oh, okay, now I'm going to do what you said. That's the best idea. That was, I think, that's how we kind of got out of the weeds and just started going. And then you're looking for, great, now I have these 10 things that I need to do for growth. And with my CSM, like right now, and I guess forever, it always has been I like to talk a lot. So it's a balancing act of this is what I need to do, this is what my company needs or what we think we need, but also taking the time and making sure you have time every month to talk and hear what they have to say. Because they have new ideas and they have things that they're learning. And, ServiceTitan is always an ever-evolving software, which I love. So they always have something to bring to the table that you might never have known about or thought about. And so it's so important to listen to them and then also tell them what you need and help them get you there.
It's amazing how, like you said, how robust ServiceTitan is.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love this. What I'm hearing is there's a open-mindedness that you bring to every conversation in maybe where you want to get to, but you're open-minded in terms of how you're going to get there.
Yeah. And I don't know if I always have been. So when we first moved to commercial construction, we had a CSM. Her name is Sani. So Sani is amazing. I tell everyone that who will listen. Sani was great because she really helped me. She would sit down and I would say, all right, I want to go from A to B and here's my roadmap. And she'd be like, oh, that's great. Let's try this. And I would, well, no. And so she would just let me roll through all the scenarios. And then she'd be like, okay, remember where we were? Let's go back. All right, and now let's go the ServiceTitan way. And so she was really good at kind of guiding me in the understandings. Sometimes you get in ServiceTitan, it's so robust, and you think you know so many paths to something. And so she'd be like, you could get there that way. It will take 3 times longer. Let's go back this way. She really showed me a lot about just streamlining the process. And again, listening to what the CSM has to say, because they're there to give you advice and to guide you through this very robust software and to show you all the things that you probably didn't even know existed.
And it sounds like you approach each conversation with a lot of clarity about what you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about how you approach those conversations with your CSM?
Yeah. I always tease people. I say ServiceTitan's my hobby. I watch the podcasts and I listen to them. I study a lot. We always, as garage door people, we want to solve it first by ourselves. We've never had a really big support network out there. And so we will work really hard on researching every which way we can, right? So if it's an immediate problem, got to get solved today, something simple, fast, go to support. Always just run to support. A bug, support. Got this little issue, support. I know this process and there's a button I can click and I can't see it, support. So we always go in very, very well prepared, but I take to my CSM when I need like a new process, or how am I going to get to this place, or I'm now stuck on even my Titan score. What do we do next? And so we always go in very, very educated and with our knowledge. And I always, before I meet with the CSM about anything, I'll say, hey, I want to go over this. And this is what I know. And this is how I think I'm going to do it. So when we get together and talk, then it gives them a chance. They're not trying to fumble and find resources. Then they can come in prepared. Saves us both time, makes it a lot easier. I involve my CSMs, and I say plural. I only have one right now. I involve them in everything that I do with ServiceTitan. So not every support ticket, but if a support ticket ever goes and they're like, hey, we've got to push this on to the next level, I wrote my CSM and I just say, hey, just wanted to let you know, I've got an open support ticket. It's about this. This is where I stand. Just letting you know. I don't expect them to fix it. I just want them to know, because every once in a while they have a great solution. And we are on 3 pro products. And so I also rope them in on anything going on. And so I was having a major marketing pro issue. And at the end of the day, it was the silliest thing. But we had turned something on and it made it so all of our contacts said, like, turned off the marketing notifications. 50,000 marketing notifications just turned off. And everybody we talked to was like, oh yeah, you're going to have to manually go turn those on. And I was like, I don't, how many TV shows can I binge while I manually turn on 50,000 contacts? And so Alan is my current CSM. He's amazing. And I might have even been more, I think, whining to him than anything of just, I'm going to have to binge some show and turn on 50,000 contacts. And he went, well, no, there's a button for that. Hold on. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, no, I think this will work. 1 second. He's like, go look. And like that, I called it his magic wand. All of our marketing contacts were turned back on. I was like, oh, I'm like, everybody told me I couldn't. And he was the one who said, just involve me in everything, because your CSM knows core. They know the core product backwards and forwards. It's their whole job. And so even though I thought this is a marketing pro problem or a marketing problem, I forgot, there was a core element. Mm-hmm. And he had it, and he saved me. I guess I could have binged. I don't know. What should I have binged that I missed? I don't know.
Have you seen Ted Lasso?
I have. I could have rewatched it, though. That's
so good. It's just such a good feel-good show the whole time.
It really is.
So there's 2 actionable takeaways that I heard. One is to keep an open line of communication with your CSM. Yes. And I really like what you said about if there's a support ticket and maybe they can't handle it, at least you're keeping them informed. Like, hey, no action needed from you, but I just want to keep you informed on what's going on, what I'm dealing with. So that's one. The second one I noticed is that, do you send in like an email like, hey, here's a topic that I want to cover next before your calls? It sounded like you had something in mind. Here's what I want to work on, and you give them a heads up.
Yes, definitely. Okay. It just saves, like I said before, it saves both of us so much time. And also, again, respecting their agenda. They come with information, and so they be like, hey, I think this is going to take 15 minutes. I'm going to need 30 for what I want to show you, or what I want to introduce you from ServiceTitan. They have an agenda that they're bringing to the table. And so then you can balance the time and make sure you're not running out of time and feeling like you got pushed off or ignored, and just addressing it. It allows them also to come prepared.
I think that's a huge note, because you don't want to just put them on the spot of like, hey, I need help with this. And then they're like, oh my gosh, where do I go? And maybe they'll find like the first quick thing or something. But if you give them a heads up, now they have so much time to prepare and give you a really good answer.
And I'm not always the best. I do put them on the spot because I will think like, oh, hey, real quick, write about this. But every time I do, I try and write it down and say, can we set an extra meeting for next week to address this? Or if you don't have an answer right off the top of your head, which they don't all do because who would? Giant software. Then can we talk in 3 days? Or I'm going to use your calendar. They have that link in all their email. I'm going to use that and schedule an appointment. Let's get with that. Do you need a week? Do you need 3 days? And so we can always come back to it and just helping keep each other on track. I think my CSM, one of the things they do really well is he keeps me on track of what I'm supposed to do. So he'll be like, hey, and before a meeting, did you remember we were going to come back and address this issue? I'm like, oh, no, I forgot that. You're going to get permission from you're going to talk to your managed technicians, or you're going to meet with this manager and see what they think about this. So they keep you on track as well. And that's, I think, a hidden feature of CSMs, right, is that they are there to set your agenda and help you stay on track with what you need to do for your business to scale and to grow and to get bigger.
So it sounds like the responsibility you have is to be clear on what you want, and then maybe a little bit of pre-work to help your CSM prep. And then the call happens and you have some action items or like some homework assignments that you take from each call.
Do the homework.
Do you have an example of like something recent that you worked with your CSM on?
So it really was the marketing pro is a big deal, but Alan also helped. We were going through a major change in our product specialist on that end. And I had a marketing guy who was just dying because he had a newsletter he wanted to go out, and it was great. But it was only going out to 200 audience members. That was it. 200. Again, 50,000 emails.
Yeah.
And it was going to 200. And he had a click rate, like an open rate, like 52%.
Wow.
And he kept thinking, this is everything. And so the first thing was figuring it out and trying to work with Marketing Pro. And it wasn't clicking. We couldn't get an answer. We couldn't figure out what was going wrong. And it was just craziness. And like I said, that's when Marketing Pro came back and said, I think it's a core product issue. You're going to have to go turn all this on. And so Alan had been involved in all of those emails. He'd been paying attention. And he said, I think I have something we're going to talk about next call, because we had one coming up. And so hopped on the call and he went, again, magic wand, I think I have it, turned it on, and it was perfect. Now, it's still, that didn't solve everything. It solved my binging episode issue. But we still went back and we couldn't get them to go through. And it actually was Alan again in a conversation probably 2 weeks later. I said, I still don't know what's going through. And he said, there's this thing called double opt-in. Might someone have accidentally turned it on? And I went, oh, I don't know. And he went, hold on, let me see. And he went in, he went, you've got a double opt-in on. And I went, okay, unclick. And just like that. So for the last 2 months, we've had emails going out. Click rate's a little lower, but still, it's got a 44% open rate, and it's great. And
that's huge.
Yeah. So it was just an absolute perfect example, I think, of how your CSM can step in, even when they normally don't. As we were working through it, he kept saying, do you have a ticket open? Do you have a service ticket open? This sounds like a bug. And so we did all the things we're supposed to do, opened a support ticket, we got everything going. And then support responded, I think the next day, and said, we believe you have double opt-in turned on. And
that's funny.
My CSM had already figured that out. But that's why you just keep them in the loop, and it's been great. I think, honestly, truly, the really huge project that we did with our CSM was we made the transition from residential to commercial construction. Now, we've always done commercial construction as a company. I laugh because I hear people say it now. We always would have said we're 70% residential, 30% commercial. And it's really switched because we did not realize that in the ServiceTitan world and in the ServiceTitan lingo, so much of what we were doing in garage doors, we see a door on a house, it's residential. It doesn't matter if it's for a contractor, for a builder, or for a Costco, it doesn't matter. It's residential. And so a lot of our workflows were kind of out of whack because we were so much commercial construction. And so we made the switch right before Pantheon last year with our CSM, with Sani just leading the charge. And so I used to joke that somebody said, what would you do differently? And I said, I wish I could onboard again. I would love to onboard with ServiceTitan now, knowing what I now know. And I got my wish. So be careful what you wish for, because it's scary. But we redid all of our processes again because we had projects. And so last year at Pantheon, we learned all about projects. And that was what I took home last year. And we implemented every single change. And it changed at every level, from how my salesmen sell jobs to how our purchasing does their job to heavens, how accounting finishes up things at the end. And our CSM Sandy was just vital in that. She walked us through every single process. Like, okay, let's take this giant elephant and we're going to eat it one bite at a time. Let's do this. Okay, what do you think? And we'd work through it. And then she said, great, now that's done. Now what's the next step? What's the most vital? So very similar to how we right after onboarding, we went through and redid all of our processes, and our CSM was there the entire way.
Wow. That does sound like onboarding all over again.
It was.
Completely redesign every single process. So what were the lessons you learned onboarding this second time around versus the first time around?
The devil's in the details. So I think at the beginning of ServiceTitan, good data in, good data out, right? And so at the beginning, you're just trying to get it all in. The second time around, we were able to say, okay, what do we want to have out of this information? At the end of the day, when we're looking back at this in 5 years, what information do we want to know? What do we want to be able to look up in reports? And we started from the backwards, and we looked at, okay, we want, in 5 years, we want to know how many of the store we installed. Well, this has to be in price book this way. Then we have to input the data this way. And, oh, no, this should be a combined. This can be a service that lives together. That's okay. This needs to be broken into materials. It really showed us what we needed to know. And then also workflow. I think we had a much better feel already for how ServiceTitan wanted us to do things, for what best practices were in ServiceTitan. At least we thought we did. I think we do. So we had a better feel for the workflow. And so it was much easier to set it up correctly the first time around. So instead of training and being like, oh, hey guys, we lied, retrain. Oh, we lied, we learned this, retrain. It was easier just to really go, okay, really, here's how we get from A to Z, and this is how we're going to do it. And it went smoother the second time around for the most part. But yeah, I think that's what we learned, was just how important it is to put the proper information in right the first time, so that, because that's the great part about ServiceTitan, right, is that in 5 years, in 10 years, you can turn around and go and market to customers and have 50,000 emails to send out for a newsletter. And so it's vital to have all of that information in there. And we didn't understand the first time around how to do that. We were learning, but the second time we were able to build it all right the first time.
Gotcha. So fast forward 1 year later, you're here at Pantheon again. And I know Pantheon can be a little overwhelming. There's so many new cool things to do, but are you starting to get a sense of what's next for Lowry?
It's funny you say that, because it was great. We had a product day earlier this week, and it was amazing to look and realize, like, I looked at my notes from last year and I went, okay, we have successfully implemented everything in this year. So that was awesome. And so, yes, the wheels are turning, of course. I've got a shameless plug. I want the CRM. That's my big ask. What I want coming out of ServiceTitan is I want to get on the new CRM. I'm very excited for that. But just everything ServiceTitan's doing is so amazing. I don't know that I can pick just one, but I will by the time the weekend hits and I have time to kind of look at all my notes and reread. We'll get together, all of my team, and we will send over a list to our CSM and say, okay, in the next 12 months, before the next Pantheon, we want to, in this order, tackle these things. And I will always ask, do you think that's the best order? Should something else be a higher priority? And I always tell people, when your CSM tells you something's a higher priority, listen. Just listen to them. It makes your life so much easier. They know more than you do, I swear. They really do. And so we'll go with the Pantheon list. Because I do sales and marketing right now, my focus is on that CRM, but also just that recommitment to that good data, like equipment. That's my other big one. Getting all the equipment updated. That's going to be my big push as soon as I get home. I joked, I left a session going, I now need to go create 12 different types of equipment so that we can really start to utilize some of the really great features with equipment that's coming out.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's such a good example of equipment is something I need to fix. My approach, I think, is to create 12 new pieces of equipment, and then that's something you'll present to your CSM, get their feedback. Is this the right thing to do for our business?
And if he tells me I'm insane, I will listen and not do it.
Right.
I promise, Alan, I swear.
And so is that what the next couple of days looks like? Taking your notes, all the different topics, any highlights, and just starting to synthesize that into some requests?
Yeah. So I go through all of my different sessions, and at the end of every day, I sit down, I do action items. And so I don't know why I did an outsign. It's really what my keyboard just picked. I went, okay. So I try and put a symbol next to needs to do this, and then I break it down. And Like I said, once you decompress and you get home and you sleep a little bit, just a little bit, I go through my list, and the rest of my team, we go through our list and we decide, okay, because you can't change everything all at once. You just cannot. But you decide, what are we actually going to do so that in 1 year we can look back and see the growth and get ready for the next year's growth. So we really use Pantheon as our, it's our yearly set. It's in the perfect time. It's fall. And so we're about to wrap up everything, and we can look forward and say, all right, and so when we're planning all of our next year's goals, they really do come from Pantheon.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on all this AI talk this year? It's like every single session everywhere. I feel like is something to do with AI. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think it's great. I really do. I use AI probably more than I should. I always joke, especially my children make fun of me because they're like, Mom, you're old, you know how to do it. And I can do it better than they can. I use ChatGPT for everything. Yeah. We named him. His name is Chet.
Okay.
I spent too much time talking to Chet, far too much. He's developed a personality. He thinks he's our new mascot. So I think the AI is great. It has been an interesting road, especially with the TI.
Yeah.
One of the first things we did as we were learning it, so my lesson to everybody with AI is go with the AI. I've got guys that are terrified of it, and I show them, you are probably smarter than the AI. Let's face it, humans were smarter than the AI, but there's no way we're faster. It's never going to happen. And so I tell my techs, my technical managers all the time, let it do it, let it do its thing, and then go and check it later. Always double check it. Don't ever just trust it, because I had a customer called and she wanted seal on her door because cats were coming in and were using her garage door as a litter box. That's what the CSR wrote. And so we had it taking the job summary and then the invoice summary and combining it in TI. And what TI came up with, and this is a year ago when it first came out, what it came up with then was, we're so sorry your garage door is a litter box or is a toilet.
Oh, and it's a toilet.
Okay. And my tech went, all right, TI, did not read it, sent it out. Customer thought it was hilarious. So that was good. And it's become our story. We tell it all the time. So it taught me, it taught our technicians that they need to read and double check. And so then recently, actually, something we did with our CSM was we went in and taught our TI more of a voice. Once we got more comfortable with ChatGPT, once we got more comfortable with Chat and what it's doing for us in our marketing, we took the same voice that we had developed and we put it in our TI. And my technicians actually came back and said, so it's too smart. It sounds really intelligent and it's hard to read. I took this to Alan and I said, what do I do? And he's like, go tell it to dumb it down. And so we went in and told it to give us a wonderful invoice summary at a senior and high school level. And that seemed to be exactly like the middle ground of what made everybody so happy. So I think it's great. I think it's going to do a lot. I think it saves a lot of time. We recently got Contact Center Pro, and we have our AI assistant. She's Dory, not the fish, but like a door, garage door. That's our pun.
That's awesome.
But it's been interesting to see as customers are using that just to leave us messages and get more information. I can see where it can really take off and just do amazing things. But I'm so excited for so much that's coming out with ServiceTitan with the AI. It's just, it makes my life better because it makes things faster.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so many good examples. And I love how you tied it back into working with Alan of the invoice summary. Hey, here's a problem. What are your ideas? Yeah. Because I'm sure Alan has worked with tons of other customers on the same issue. And so that's truly the power of the CSM, is to bring in some of those best practices, those ServiceTitan best practices to your situation. And speaking of innovation, I think in about an hour, Vahe's going on the keynote, and there's going to be an unveiling of a bunch of new cool AI stuff. Is there anything you're looking forward to most besides the CRM in that talk?
I think the AI assistant for on the Scheduling Pro side, if somebody, one for abandoned calls, but the AI assistant that can, if somebody dips out on Scheduling Pro at any point, an AI assistant come back in and say, hey, did you want to book that? So it can happen at midnight or 2 a.m. and an AI assistant will just take over, and I'll probably name her Dory, but could just go in and be like, does this schedule work for you? And to access your schedule and say, here are the times. No, that doesn't work. Okay, how about this day? I think that would be huge, because there are a lot of people, I think more and more in society, that don't have that 9 to 5 and can't get away from 9 to 5 to call a home service company. And they're online and they're using those systems and they're comfortable with it. And so if it looks like I've got somebody responding at 3 a.m., go us.
That
Go
is amazing.
ServiceTitan.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where you guys go post this Pantheon to next year Pantheon. We may have to do a
fun.
round 2 next year and just
All
see all
right.
the things that you guys implemented. Do you have any parting thoughts for our listeners today?
Your CSM should be your greatest advocate in ServiceTitan. I have always felt that way. Listen to them, take their advice, and also remember that they are working with so many customers, but that doesn't mean you're not important. I tell every one of my new CSMs, hi, I'm me, and I might drive you crazy. Just let me know. But whenever I talk to my CSM, I know we're the most important at that moment. But again, they are talking to so many other customers, and so they have a lot of insight on what another customer is going through, or somebody just saw this. But also just remembering that they don't know what you don't know, especially when you've just onboarded. There's so many things that you might have missed or didn't know you missed. And so letting them know, hey, this is where I am. I need to get to this point is so helpful. And learn on your own. Go listen to the podcasts and take advantage of knowledge base and everything so that you can go to your CSM truly prepared with knowledge. Sometimes it's so simple. I can't tell you how many times I have called Alan and said, I'm stuck. And I'll send him a screen recording. I got here. And he'll be like, scroll down, blue button, click it. I'm like, oh, great, thanks. So simple. So instead of don't ever get frustrated. Just communicate, emails. You're welcome to have as many sessions as you want. So tap in, hit that link, talk to them, and just make sure you're open to their suggestions because they do know ServiceTitan best practices. And at the end of the day, that's where we all want to be.
Beautifully said. And thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing your wisdom in developing a really healthy relationship with your CSM to make the most out of ServiceTitan. So
they are amazing, and they're what makes our business run. So
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.